Hi friends. Last week I made my first video where I showed my face, and I didn't have the courage and the self esteem to do this before. And I've been hiding behind a faceless video channel for not too long, about 2 months. But I know I want to be able to help people. And I know deep down that I can't do this while I'm hiding. So here I am. Let me start and tell you a little bit about myself. I started my self awareness journey in 2019, 2020. It wasn't just self awareness, it was self development. And I was forced to do this when I started my florals and events business. And I realized that entrepreneurship requires a whole load of grit, determination, and so much more. And I didn't even realize before I had plunged into it how much of that self development that I needed. And boy, did I learn. I mean, from the start of my business, I was so fired up emotionally. I was willing to do anything for my business to make it work and make it grow. And as a result, I was able to grow and I actually manifested the growth. And I had amazing clients, including celebrities and corporates in year one, which was during COVID. And this was when everything was shut down. There were no events. And I was able to book clients in for when the world was going to open. And through this, I grew a six-figure business in as little time as possible. I've had very little business experience before this, and I had a corporate job. And I still remember my first event when the world opened. And I had in my first week, I think 4 events totaling 40K. And I know during this time, the law of attraction and the law of vibration was working for me. And this was pure manifestation. But after 2 to 3 years, I self sabotaged. And so that business that I had built up collapsed. And I couldn't understand what was happening, why all the clients weren't converting. And the business went from a six-figure business to a mere 5K a year. And it wasn't until someone in a business group said about the power of gratitude, about self-development, vision boards, and other ideas that I delved into, excuse me, as part of this journey of more self-development and reading more books. And this led me to the fact that the problem was actually me. I didn't realize that the energy I was putting out there was negative because my vibration had dropped. And I've been reading a book by Dr. Joseph Murphy, and he says in this book, it's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And he says in there are two types of people. One's magnetized and one's demagnetized. And I realized that I was no longer magnetized. I had a sense of fear. I had a sense of anxiety inside of me, which directly impacted on the business growth. And now let me tell you about my journey and how I discovered this. I learned about the process of journaling, and I've never done journaling before, so I delved into it. And I've wrote down in one part of my journal my thoughts, my brain dump. Through this process, I discovered my story. Now, Tony Robbins, a recent online event that I attended, he said we all have a story which creates our beliefs and our state. And it's our state that controls our lives. So, what was my story? So, let me tell you what I wrote in my journal. I had a heading called My Story, and these are some of the things that I wrote. These were my beliefs from my childhood days that were still with me to this day, and I wasn't aware of this. So, as a child from the age of about 4 to 16, 18, I remember constantly being told, You need to get permission before you do anything. Boys are the best, and only they can go on and do things. Girls need to just get married, have children. Girls are a burden and belong to another family. And this is typical brown people thinking. You will never be able to do it. You're not clever enough. You need to be home on time. And this was when I was at school, even at the age of 17, 18. You should be getting top marks at school. You can't go out with friends to parties. You should be seen, not heard. You are a girl and you can't dream. You have to do as you're told. You're going to someone else's house, you're getting married, and you do what people tell you to do. And as a result of these things, I had a lot of negative self-talk with an inner belief and the voice inside me saying, I can never do it. I'm not good enough. I am not supported. I always have to get permission. And I was lacking in confidence and I was lacking in self-esteem. And I recall I always used to fight back, saying, this is unjust, this is not fair. I wasn't academically performing. I had lack of focus. I still have lack of focus. And I wouldn't say lack of results now, because I know what I've been able to achieve. But in the background, yes, there was a lack of results. And I suffered with imposter syndrome. I believed boys were better than girls from that same thinking, because that's what I was told. I wasn't understanding myself and I wasn't able to find my happiness. And that negative self-talk got stronger and stronger as time went by. But deep down, I was still a hero in my eyes. And that's why I've never given up. And I'm here and I'm still fighting. And as you can see, this is all negative and there is nothing positive. So my brain was so programmed to be negative, and the self-talk became more and more negative too. I recently also did a timeline exercise, and I found that I didn't feel loved and praised as I was growing up, because the boys in the family were praised and they got the attention. And also that because I didn't get the praise, I didn't get that warmth from my family. I'm not saying it wasn't there, but it's how I perceived it at the time. And I was yearning this. No one ever told me not to worry, you'll be fine. And so let me just tell you, now I'm from a South Asian immigrant family, and I was the eldest child. Money was tight when I was growing up, and I know times must have been hard for my parents and my family. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not blaming anyone or anything, but just telling you that these were the circumstances, and really just building a picture for you. And I understand there must be so many others in this same position. My parents came into this foreign country in the 1970s, and like so many others, they had insecurities, they had a new life to build, and challenging times ahead. And I'm so grateful for their sacrifices and what they've gone through during those challenging times. And they've managed to turn tables round and really build a good life for themselves. And even though they were immigrants, they were still holding on to values and cultures. I think we all do, and that there's nothing wrong with that. One of these beliefs were that boys are better, and boys are better celebrated across South Asian families. There's always festivals throughout the year celebrating the existence of boys. And this was very prominent in my family too. And I recall all too often being rejected when I wanted something. And yet when my brothers wanted something, it was there, no questions asked. The wish was fulfilled. I remember so many instances in my childhood. I remember I spent a year of my life from the age of 4 to 5 when I spent with my grandparents in India. And I think they had quite a toxic relationship. My grandparents died when I was younger. And I can remember, I only say this because I can remember them arguing a lot. I came back to the UK, I had to join nursery, and that for me wasn't pleasant. I remember I didn't want to go, and I remember being dragged to nursery. At that time, because I'd spent a year abroad, I didn't know how to communicate in English, so this didn't help. And I felt this was a start of a negative downward spiral, along with the other communication that was being said at home in terms of boys being the best. I was constantly reminded by my family that boys are better. Always been told that you can't do this, you can't do that. Girls belong to another family. And I found myself unable to find a voice because I was always shut down. I remember being told to learn my timetables when I was at primary school or maybe even middle school. And every time I got the answers wrong, I was asked to do squats as a punishment. Now, I had lack of confidence and lack of self-esteem, and I was unable to make friends easily. I used to spend a lot of my time, a lot of my lunch times, on my own in the playground. Just like most girls, I wanted to look pretty like a princess. But then when I did this and I made the effort, I was made to feel guilty because I wasn't achieving the grades in my schooling. Therefore, it was as if I wasn't entitled to dress up and look nice because I wasn't performing academically. And as the years went by and I grew older, my family had insecurities about letting me go to friends' parties, letting me go out at the end of the school year, even in my late teenage years when I was doing my GCSEs. And the fact is, I wasn't able to have friends. And this impacted further on my academic performance as I went through my school life. And I was always told that you can go out to parties, you can't do anything, but you can only do this once you get married and your husband and his family allows you to. So it's always that thing that you needed validation. You could never make up your own mind, make your own decision. And little did I know that this childhood trauma and the programming of my subconscious mind as I grew older would show up in my later life, in my married life. And as you can imagine, these things showed up again and again and again in my life. And I was never good enough. And I was always seeking validation. And I was people pleasing because I wanted to be liked. But I didn't realize any of this until I started journaling and I went down this journey of self awareness. The trauma, even though for some they would say, what is this about? That's not trauma. There's lots of other things. But for me, this was intense because this is what I was told all day, every day. It was completely ingrained into my subconscious mind. I'll tell you more about my story as time progresses and as I heal myself. But the direction of this channel going forward is to bring awareness to the many people who may have suffered or still are suffering. There might be some suffering something similar, or they may have gone through other traumas. But it's really just to see there is a path forward. And I'm somewhat there, but I have still a long way to go. I realized there was a lot of resistance in my life because of my beliefs from my childhood years, and that I haven't been able to let go of this. But slowly, I know I will get there because I'm learning the tools and I'm gaining the knowledge that will help me. And I want to be able to share this with you. Now, I'm not blaming anyone because I know it's my perspective of the events as they happened in my life. Let me repeat that. It's my perspective. It's how I thought and how I perceived those events in my life. And what I have understood is that universe puts out events as neutral. It doesn't know what's happy and what's negative and what's positive. It only puts out events as neutral, and it's how we perceive them at the time when we receive them. And for me, I perceived all these events as being negative. When in case my parents, all they wanted was the best for me, and they were trying to gear me up for what they thought life was for women. It was what they thought was the best for me and would be beneficial to me in my life. It was me who perceived it as negative, and hence the downward and negative spiral. But I understand this now that I'm working on myself to make myself better, and I'm working to make myself heal so that once again I can manifest my desires and live the life of my dreams. Now, fast forward a few years, I did go to university. I did my degree that my parents wanted me to do. It was science related because that's what they had wished for, and I fulfilled that. And soon after, I got married, and still happily married. And yet again, my inner child trauma showed up in many ways in my married life. For all these years, I didn't realize, and I didn't know that the inner world creates the outer world. But more on this another day. This is something that I just learned recently as part of my healing journey. My negativity over the years has prevented me from manifesting my dream life, even though I have the most caring and loving family of my own. I want others to know not to be negative because this impacts you in all areas of your life and you don't realize. Instead, we need to find the positive and the good in every event because the universe puts out the event as a neutral, and it's our perspective that converts it to a negative or a positive. And so, my message is let's be positive, let's put that smile on everyone's face. And even when you're negative, try and step back and look at the situation and see what positive you can find in there. Because if you try hard enough, you will find it. And as I said before, I am the hero of my story. And that's why I've never given up. And I'm here and fighting, not only for myself, but for others living a negative life. Let's bring awareness of how positivity can impact everyone because everyone deserves to be happy and should be able to manifest their desires. I want people to stop standing in their own way and move forward to a more fulfilled and desired life. And you can only do this once you become more conscious and more aware. I don't want you to just see yourself smile, but I want you to be happy on the inside. And this channel going forward will be more of my healing and transformation journey, the struggles as I uncover them, and how I navigate forward. And I'll be sharing books and knowledge that I'm gaining through my journey of personal growth and self-awareness so that I can impart that knowledge on people who also need it. So if you like this video, please do give me a thumbs up because it will give me the encouragement to keep going. Subscribe so we can move together and let me know what's your story so that I know that I'm not alone. I'm so grateful for your support through and through, and I look forward to this journey with you. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.